Hello, welcome to the Tai Chi for Therapists podcasts, where we explore the evidence and practice of Tai Chi and Qigong in clinical settings. Welcome to episode 6. I'm Helen Parsons.
Hi, and I'm Philip Sheridan, and on today's show we're really pleased to have Ali Leigh, who is an occupational therapist, and she's based in Sussex. Welcome, Ali. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation. It's incredible. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. Ali, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey so far? You've had an interesting journey into OT, and how you've ended up where you are. Would you like to share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I think probably first of all, it's good to say that I'm a return to practice OT. I felt the calling back in 2015 to get back in my green uniform again, and encouraged by my children who were so fed up of me going on about OT and not practicing that I think in 2018 I took the plunge and did the return to practice, and that was incredible. Big chunk out of my working week to try and fit those hours in around normal sort of family life, etc. But it's been the best journey.
Fabulous. And can you tell us a little bit more about the settings you currently work in? Where have you ended up? Where has it brought you to?
Yeah, so I guess if I just link that other bit, my return to practice was in physical health. So I did neuro rehab and orthopedics. Then felt the calling of mental health and got a band 5 developing 6 post. And that was in mental health. And I was in mental health for about 5.5 years in community. And then I also felt the calling to be in a school. So that's currently where I am.
Fabulous. Okay. So, can you remember the first time you saw the potential for yoga and Tai Chi as a tool for occupational therapy?
Yeah, absolutely. I was in mental health in a community setting, and we're very privileged to be able to go out into the community and into people's homes. And I suddenly saw how small people's lives were, and how there was almost in some ways, without them realizing, sort of sensory deprivation to do with lack of sunlight, lack of movement. And I felt then, where can I help? Where can I encourage people to expand and explore their world fairly differently from the normal mental health route?
Okay. And so were you already practicing yoga at that point, or was this something you already had access to?
Yeah, so I was already practicing it, but I then decided to do my training as an instructor. So that took about a year in the end, because you have to do about 230 hours, which is exhausting on top of a full-time job. And then I was given sort of the soft nod to be able to implement this with my clients in the community mental health setting. Yeah.
Brilliant. So you kind of saw the need to have another tool in the toolbox when you were in this setting, and you kind of felt that yoga was that tool in the box. And what then why then Tai Chi? Why did you decide you needed another tool in the toolbox, or what was going well enough that to decide you wanted to expand your toolbox in that way?
I think I'd seen in the back of OT News back in the day some Tai Chi training, and possibly I was attracted to that first before yoga, but then couldn't find it, and so that sort of advert or whoever was providing that sort of just disappeared. So I thought I'd go down the yoga route, and then lo and behold, I came across you guys, which then completely enhanced my delivery of what I can do with my client group.
How do you use yoga and Tai Chi, Ali? Do you kind of use them separately, or do you ever combine them? What's your kind of process when working with an individual or a group?
I think I would say now that my Tai Chi and yoga is intertwined. It's become a beautiful sort of hybrid of a treatment to offer people. So it would be really hard to separate them now. And that's since I did my training with you was in the last summer, 2024. And how quickly that's become part of what I offer as an OT. So yeah, it is, yeah, they are intertwined.
And have you ever encountered sort of skepticism, or how do you introduce these practices to people who might be a little bit kind of wary or even skeptical?
I don't actually think I've come across that at all. I feel like I I feel that it's actually where in all the settings I'm working in and have worked in, it's been received with open arms.
Oh, that's
Yeah, which is incredible, isn't it?
yeah. So it is with colleagues as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some people are very pleased I'm in say in the mental health setting, are very pleased that I'm offering it, but they might not feel comfortable to be part of it if I'm doing it for wellbeing for staff. But they're very pleased that I can offer it to their client group, because we all have a different relationship with movement, don't we?
Absolutely.
And maybe at points I take it for granted that I can move and, and want to move and want to explore what my body can do. But other people aren't so comfortable in that setting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make, isn't it? That we, as therapists, we might not always be aware of that about exactly how we feel about movement, because I think sometimes we can be doing to people, and I think the nice thing about the Tai Chi and yoga is we're doing with. We have this nice to go alongside people and to do the movements alongside. So we have to also feel comfortable and relaxed to be in that mode of doing the movement and feeling comfortable with movement. And that can be, like you say, it's an interesting thing that does feel a real challenge. And we've talked about this in a previous podcast with Lisa about how challenging movement can be, because for some people that's been a lifelong thing that they've felt really challenged with movements. And I wonder if, so you sound like you've really become passionate about movement. This is something that you feel really comfortable with. And when we were setting this podcast up, you were telling us that you really found your passion, and you'd been able to give it wings. And already you've kind of talked about, how you've really intertwined OT together with yoga and Tai Chi. Can you just tell us a little about that? Because I think so many people want to, love to hear that when people have found their passion and feel inspired by it. Can you describe that a little bit more for us?
Yeah, I think you have like a bit of a ta-da moment when you feel like when you're delivering something maybe in an OT setting, you feel as if, oh, this is really making sense, and I'm really looking forward to delivering this session. We had it in the mental health setting. We set up a recovery through being active program. And that was a 6-week program encouraging people to be active. But we started it with just encouraging people to move. So it started very, very small and then progressed. And we were able to use an outdoor setting as well, which is fantastic. And I think that started to really feel just so right. I felt so excited to deliver movement, and it just then progressed from there. And I really feel it has become me and I have become it.
Wonderful. That's a real sense of embodying what you do. And I think that is really important in these movement practices, isn't it? Just kind of to go back to the kind of the nuts and bolts sometimes behind it, when we're actually doing it and delivering it is great. So just to kind of talk about what was the bits and bobs that you had to do behind the scenes to kind of set up to maybe convince your senior staff that this is what you wanted to do, and to get them behind you. What was the process for that?
Yeah, so if we're looking at, so at that point, I was in a community mental health setting. So just been given, like I said, the quiet nod that I could deliver the yoga and et cetera, within my OT sessions with my clients. And also then obviously we ran the group. But then I felt as if it would be really useful to take it into the acute settings. So I set up communication with a couple of the band 8 OTs who were really happy to run with it. So I sort of put some information together about evidence, which before I've talked to you, there's not so much evidence about yoga, but there is a lot of evidence about Tai Chi. But I got some evidence about yoga and put that all together and told them, sort of just said to them what sessions would look like for the older persons wards and for the acute wards. And that was as complicated as it got for me, because I then handed that over to the band 8s, who then went to the hospital managers. So that was just beautiful. It was like a symphony. It just went really well. There was a little bit of a time lapse, and I was really eager to get going. But yeah, it has been really, really fluid.
Excellent. We love that those sort of terminologies, don't we? Sort of going with the flow is very much part of it, isn't it?
It's very Tai Chi, definitely.
And how did it work in the school setting? How did you get started there?
So yeah, I left mental health, then the community job, and then to work in a school. And I was sort of very interested to see what OT looks like in that sort of a new clinical setting. And then one of the opportunities I had was to go and observe PE and see what some of the children were like in PE. Not really to sort of do any more than that, but just to see how the children I were working with, how they were managing PE, I guess. And then I just literally had a ta-da moment that I thought, I can see where it would be really good to do a collaboration with the PE department and myself as an OT, bringing in, bringing in yoga and Tai Chi. Because I could see some children just drifting to the side of the class, some children really not participating, maybe participate a little bit, and then they would go off and talk to friends. And it was hard for the PE staff to keep everybody together, because that was what it was like back in our day. Well, back in any PE lessons, it's quite hard to keep everybody together, isn't it? So I thought, I wonder if this could work. And then I think I talked to my clinical lead, had a meeting with the PE department, and then that just rolled out, and we rolled that out in September. So that was from May to then rolling out in September. Boom.
Wow.
I'm just going to ask one more question quickly, just on the back of that. I just wanted to reflect back to when we were talking about feeling comfortable in movement and some adults not feeling comfortable with movement. And I think it goes back to, for some people, it goes back to that experience of PE, doesn't it? Of being the person or the child that ends up drifting to the side, literally or metaphorically, kind of getting lost somewhere along the way and not feeling included. So in some sense, do you feel like you're helping people create a healthy approach to movement that could set them up for the rest of their life? How do you feel about that?
Absolutely, but also it then, I can see the children that I observed back in May. I can see those children now really feeling, I feel they look as if they're really incorporating movement. They're enjoying the movement. They're enjoying participating. I now see them running in to join me and come to the front and open up their mat, which is just so heartwarming. And I think in a sort of, if we go along with sort of further societal issues, that if we feel included early on, and we feel able and we feel enabled, then don't we feel as if we've got the freedom to explore other areas in life and not feel as if there's a sideline where, oh no, we can't do that, but you just feel as if, yeah, possibly I could do this. So I feel definitely enhanced these children's lives. And dare I say, the PE department as well have also said it's been an incredible opportunity for them to work with the OTs.
That's awesome. I'm just listening to you, Ali. It kind of begins to kind of chime with some OT theory that I'm aware of. the doing, being, becoming, and belonging by
Absolutely.
Wilcox, and what you were describing there with the students kind of seemed to be embodied in that description. Could you say a bit more about that?
Oh, I just feel that fits perfectly, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And how comfortable must you feel, even though you're probably not even aware of it as a child, that you feel like you're doing, being, becoming, and belonging? Because now they are part of a community where possibly I observed them in May, where they weren't really part of a community as such. There was, what it's like to be a child at school when you're not picked for something, or you can't catch a ball, or etc. etc. We all have those memories. So to see them developing is incredible.
Wonderful. I think this is a real opportunity, because I know we talked about this kind of fantastic way that you'd identified that the doing, being, becoming by Wilcox was kind of really helps to mesh why we would bring a movement practice into different settings, because yes, we can see that the doing is the start, and to embrace that movement, or to embrace a new hobby. For some people, it is becoming a yoga practitioner, or to become a Tai Chi player is stepping into a new set of being, isn't it? Sort of whether you be a child or an adult. So how do you see the adults kind of reacting to that doing, becoming? Do you kind of see that a little bit with the adults as well?
Yep, I see that in all those settings in the mental health setting, about where people are feeling that they can talk to their neighbour that they maybe just shared a movement with, or we might be in a cramped room and they've knocked each other, and there's just like a little bit of a camaraderie between and an understanding. But there's a beauty that comes with this doing, being, becoming, belonging. And you can see, I think in yoga, we call it, like, for me, I think about a lotus flower and how that lotus flower opens up. That is exactly what that we're talking about there.
Do you have any kind of sort of standout examples or cases, Ali, from either mental health or even with the students that you might share? Obviously anonymized, but anything that...
I'm smiling because I've got so many. And where do I start? I think if I roll with the first one, that actually was in the older person's ward. When I work there, I use the day area. So first of all, I have to approach and see if it's okay if I can turn down the television or turn off the television, and then we gather people together. You know what it's like. And sometimes people are interested, but they prefer to stay on the periphery. That is absolutely fine. And then there was one lady I remember had gone for 3 consecutive weeks. And then on those 3 consecutive weeks, she was still on periphery, but she was watching intently with what I was doing. And I could see her sometimes moving her head, or moving her finger, or moving her foot. But it stayed pretty much that. But she was engaged, but from a distance. And then on the 4th week, when I went up there, she wasn't there. And then sort of during the session, I started to hear somebody almost like calling my name. I'm reluctant to disrupt the group, but I just asked if the OT tech, was somebody calling my name? She went and checked, and this dear lady was in a side room. I'm not sure for the reasons now, but she was shouting my name. And actually, when the OT tech came back to the group, she said, "Oh, she just wants to tell you that she's here and she's taking part." Right. So that just melted my heart. I had about 10 minutes left of this group, closed the group down, and then I went in and did a little one-to-one session with her. But that was incredible, because you don't know what people are taking from your sessions. We're looking sometimes, aren't we, for full engagement and activity and response and a big smile and things like that. Who knows what people are taking from things?
it's fantastic opportunity there to kind of think about that idea that somebody had already perhaps created a routine that at that time of the week, maybe on that day, that had perhaps it could become a little bit of a routine for it already. And yes, you're almost setting up expectations that even if you're just watching, so we often say to people, even just come in, because watching often makes people feel relaxed. Watching's a slow, relaxed movement. We know those brain regions are being kind of activated, and people enjoy that feeling. So yeah, while we might say, oh, they're not, because they're not fully taking part.
Yes.
They're still taking part in lots of ways. Lots is happening for them to engage. So
Go on,
sorry.
you said you had loads, Ali. Give us another.
Okay, well, I guess the other one actually is my mum, who at the lovely age of 83 has always said, I'm no good at PE, I'm no good at sport, and that's been her rhetoric, and I've always had this throughout my life, and luckily she has now found yoga. And a seated practice in her local area, but now I do Tai Chi with her on FaceTime every week. And she stopped that rhetoric now. She stopped saying it, because I said to Mum, look what you're doing. And she's been able to say now, I really enjoy this. I really love this. And yes, I am active. I am sporty. As a result from that, we've also got her on the tennis court doing a standing tennis as well. So I'm really pleased that I've caught her a little bit late in the journey, but she's now on a tennis court, and her rhetoric about herself has changed.
That's interesting. That's, again, there's the adage, it's never too late, and that's a perfect example, isn't there? And again, it kind of chimes back to that doing, being, becoming, and belonging as well. She's really, sounds as though she's changing in those domains as well.
Yeah, she's feeling sporty. That's what she would say now. So, and I'm delighted for her and the extended family that they can see her changing.
And I think it's such an important idea, that as we get older, that we can develop, new doors can open, and if they involve physical activity, even better, because it's so important for maintaining that independence, whatever that means to the individual. But we know that physical activity will play a major part in that, in being confident in your body, being confident that it'll do what you want it to do, whether it be to get you from A to B, to hit a tennis ball if that's what you're going to do, but to just give you confidence in moving around the world. And we know that as people get older, fear of falls, or fear of failing, of looking incapable, of looking frail, can become a real thing that inhibits your interaction, your ability to be in the community or belong in the community anymore.
I was just wondering, again, you're implementing Tai Chi and yoga into your practice. Are there any kind of unique benefits that you see from these two practices that you could tell us based on your experience? What are these practices bringing that maybe other tools don't, or yeah?
Yeah, I think people are feeling comfortable to move and expand their body. I think we tend to, as humans now, we tend to be in that sagittal plane of movement, don't we? Yeah. And we might walk, but how often do we open our and use our wingspan as such? How often do we take our shoulders back? How often do we rotate? So I think it's that glorious thing that we can bring to people, that they also feel. Some of the people that I've spoken to as well, and I noticed it on one of your other guests as well, how graceful Tai Chi is. that you already feel incredibly powerful doing these movements just by the stance, initially by the hip width stance, and then being able to move so slowly. It's a beautiful gift to introduce to people.
I think that's a lovely description. It kind of chimes with embodiment theory, and again, it chimes with those descriptions that we were talking about earlier in terms of how people can maybe have, I don't know if the right word is distorted, or they just don't feel as though they can inhabit their body in a comfortable way. And that could be for decades in some cases with adults. I recall people in our community classes sometimes saying, I've been waiting all my life to be able to do Tai Chi or do some kind of movement practice above and beyond, as you say, just going for a walk, and then learning to inhabit their body in a different way. And your kind of examples seem to be chiming with that as well. And this idea of embodiment is, do these practices help us begin to inhabit our bodies in a new and interesting way, and perhaps in the ways that help us begin to reconnect, quite literally sometimes?
That is it. It's reconnection or connection. And, when you see that you can maybe rotate a little bit more easily, that you can open your arm to the left and it can fully extend, and you can do it to the right. It's a wow moment, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, an example I remember is someone, an elderly lady, literally saying, I can feel my legs again. And she didn't have an injury or anything to her body in respect of losing kind of nervous feedback from her legs. She literally emotionally, mentally reconnected with her legs. And that's always been a powerful bit of feedback that I never expected to hear from someone, that someone could perhaps have lived their life so long feeling disconnected from a part of their body.
Yeah, and it's magical, isn't it? I think also something I'm very aware of, that with the client groups I work with, they are very enthusiastic about doing Tai Chi. I think, what they can pick up on the media, it doesn't feel threatening at all. Sometimes when I come in and I talk about yoga, people go, oh, no, I can't do that down dog thing, can't lift my leg up there, can't twist here. So I think Tai Chi, from what we've picked up already, just from observing it, people feel as if they can achieve those movements straight away. So there isn't a barrier to moving. That's what I'm finding with Tai Chi.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love that description. It's very non-threatening, isn't it, for people who may be feeling that they're just not capable of doing movement, but especially when you've got maybe people that have had serious health conditions as well. So not only do people feel unconfident about moving, but they've had on top of that, they'll have a serious health condition and kind of go, and I can't, people joke, don't they? I can't put my leg behind my head in yoga. It's kind of, people already have that mental image of yoga as something that's super flexible. And we know yoga is great. It's highly adaptable as well. But yeah, people kind of have this already have this kind of barrier up. Whereas luckily in the West, sort of in the UK and the USA especially, we have lots of benign images of Tai Chi, lots of images of older people doing Tai Chi. It's already presented as something that's highly accessible. So it's great for getting buy-in from us, for us as therapists straight away. Is there any particular conditions that you kind of look out for? Do you think that, oh yeah, this is going to be great to use my yoga or Tai Chi with this? Or do you just see kind of how the individuals react to it, like say how they feel about it?
With the children, it's quite interesting with them, because I quite often say, right, at the end of the group, at the end of the class, what would you like to do? A little bit more yoga, a little bit more Tai Chi. So that is just, I see it in every group, in every setting. And I often walk down the street and think, oh, you'd really benefit from OT, Tai Chi and yoga. So I just see it everywhere. I see it. I want to deliver it everywhere.
Brilliant, brilliant.
How have fellow colleagues in OT or elsewhere, you kind of mentioned the PE staff in the school setting, but what sort of reactions or kind of comments have you received from fellow health professionals as well in regard to using yoga and Tai Chi in your practice?
I think people are all very excited and very pro. I don't think it's been that difficult to establish, but it might sound like it if you haven't done much of this work before. Yeah, so I think yeah, like I said before, open arms to it. People are very, very excited by it, by an OT delivering this in different settings.
And have you ever had an opportunity to either sort of present or even kind of train a little in other OTs or other practitioners? Have you kind of introduced yoga or Tai Chi to them in some form?
With students, I haven't done any training as such, but I feel that's within me. That's probably a growing desire that I definitely want to spread the love and spread the encouragement for us to do this. And I would actually at the moment I'm looking to get further funding for the OT for Tai Chi and yoga in acute settings, and I'm sort of building up a presentation so I can show evidence of what's happened and the progress that clients have made in all these different settings now.
Wonderful. That's an amazing resource to have. Yeah, to kind of to show the progress and to kind of really keep it embedded in the service, because often I think when people move on, that can be lost, isn't it? But if you're sharing it with, like you say, students, and you're collecting that data, then that it's hopefully going to get embedded and you can share it on your journey with others. So looking back so far, is there anything you would do differently?
Obviously do it sooner. I don't think so. I can't think. That's a really hard one, isn't it? Yeah, no, I probably guess I wish I could have embraced this earlier, but opportunities arise at a certain point. We're all on our journeys, aren't we?
Yeah.
But no, I can't think of anything too concrete to say on that one.
No, that's great. So I think that hopefully that's just reassuring for people to hear that I think sometimes it can be daunting, can't it, when we're thinking about introducing something new and challenging ourselves maybe to learn something new. It can feel like, is there lots of pitfalls, but kind of saying you just kind of went with it and it's all kind of like, it sounds like it's gone flowingly for you.
Yeah, I think it's that passion, isn't it? When you find that taste of passion, my goodness, nothing can stop you. I just feel like that like it has become me, like I said, yeah, and happy to share the love about it and help anybody who's interested in exploring this.
Picking up on that, Ali, so what advice would you give to other OTs who might be interested in incorporating yoga or Tai Chi into their practice?
I think my first stop would be to come to you guys and do the training with you, because from the get-go, I felt as if I could roll it out after our first session. So that's what I would go with is to meet you guys. Is it a 6 or 8 week program?
6 weeks, yeah.
Very easy to slip it into your daily, your weekly routine, and the encouragement that you give during your training. That's a great place to start.
Awesome, thank you. Are there any sort of pitfalls that people need to be aware of in these kinds of domains of, again, yoga or Tai Chi? Is there anything you would say, just be a little bit mindful or careful of this, or just have an awareness of anything?
I think as probably for me, my enthusiasm takes over, and actually sometimes I might not get the contract or be able to roll it out as quickly as I'm ready to go. So just to pace yourself on that, and to collate your evidence, and then slowly sort of start going into, I guess, also a community of practice as well, because that's really helped me. I'm, that I felt as if I've got a belonging with the community of practice, with the moving OTs has been fantastic.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that's going to be super important, isn't it? That sense of building a network of support around you as well.
Yeah, especially when these things are a little bit newer and a little bit different and not that well known. Like say, the moving OT guys are great, aren't they? They're easy to find, and we'll have that in the show notes as well, the link back. Or you can listen back to our previous episode with
Lisa.
With Lisa.
Yeah.
Sport for confidence in the moving OTs. So how do you see this moving into the future? Where do you see it going next? Or what are your plans?
I guess growing my social media about how I implement yoga and Tai Chi into my OT practice. And then I think I might have mentioned with you before that I'm kind of taking some tender steps at the moment with the Lawn Tennis Association, the LTA, to see how I can be involved as an OT in delivering tennis at a few local clubs. But also the wider thing for me is about that well-being, and where I can incorporate yoga and Tai Chi as we welcome people who are maybe new to tennis or coming back to tennis. Especially we're looking at an older age group at the moment for the walking tennis. So yeah, to make that, I've talked to the people at LTA, and they're working with Age UK about how can we in a tennis setting make up a package where their lives are enhanced by doing tennis, but just not the activity. How can we look at how they move, how their lifestyle, their routine, their structure, and bring the yoga and Tai Chi into it as part of a session? That's where I'm kind of making some inroads and talking to local tennis coaches as well.
Sounds really interesting. Was that maybe inspired by your journey with your mother, who's kind of got into tennis again as a new activity you described earlier?
Yeah, partly, but I can see, the tennis court. What a great place to deliver Tai Chi. I mean, it's just, it's fantastic. It's clean.
Yeah.
And we have got space. So I just started to look at the environment first, then look at the skill, the task, and then sort of take different steps about what would that look like, to offer a 6-week package for people who wanted to be more active, specifically tennis, bring in the yoga Tai Chi, but also always with my OT head on first.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting description that you're thinking about the environment, because that again chimes with some of our previous podcasts, where people have had to really think about the setting in which they're going to deliver, and that setting really can determine how a session or a series of sessions will go. And as you say, a tennis club normally has some reasonably decent facilities and opportunities for social networking as well. So yeah, it sounds really interesting.
But again, that opening up to people who might also not have considered tennis before. And sometimes with these institutions as such, they can feel a little bit threatening, can't they? Maybe not always inviting. But if we can sort of bring it down to a level of open door policy, and then, but this is the program that we'd like to offer, so with a closed group as such, I think that would just be absolutely magical.
Sounds super interesting. Can you keep us posted on how that goes?
Yes, I'm about to meet with the LTA, my LTA connections in the next week, and in email exchange with Age UK right now.
Sounds like we've got another
We'd love to have you
podcast
back, yeah.
episode, Ali. That sounds really interesting.
Wonderful. So, before we wrap this up, because it's been an amazing discussion, been really interesting, and time has flown. It's time to kind of wind things up. But before we go, is there anything that you kind of want to say, anything that we didn't incorporate earlier, or any final thoughts that you would like to give out to OTs or, rehab professionals in general when they're considering bringing yoga and Tai Chi into their practice?
I think just do it. If you're feeling it and it's niggling away at you and you can see there could be inroads for this, opportunity for this, that, it doesn't need to be an hour-long session. It doesn't need to be a half-hour session. You can do movement, encourage people to move within sort of 10, 15 minutes. Just if you're feeling it, please do it.
Wonderful, thank you. It's really reassuring and really helpful for those people. Like you say, it's kind of ticking away in the back of the mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
So where can listeners find out more about you, Ali? How can they get in touch? Where can they find you on those socials that you talked about?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, Ali Leigh, and that's spelled Leigh, and also Instagram, Alison OT and Yoga.
Fab. And we'll put those links in the show notes for you so people can get in touch as well. Thank you so much, Ali, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you again for your time, Ali. It's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Tai Chi for Therapists podcast. If you would like to find out more about our CPD course called Tai Chi for Therapists, then you can always head over to our website at www.taichifortherapists.com. But once again, thank you so much, Ali, for joining us. Wish you a good evening, and we hope to speak with you again soon.
Thank you.